Welcome back to another video. Bernie Sanders gets animated on CNN over Trump's last threat. I don't know what's going on in this country. There's a lot going on in this country. With ICE raiding these black neighborhoods, with the government shutdown, it's a lot to unpack, and I'm trying to cover that every single day. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Let's get right into it. Let's go.
Favor of the Republican bill to keep the government open. That is Democratic Senator Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada explaining her vote this way tonight by saying, quote, "I cannot support a costly shutdown that would hurt Nevada families and hand even more power to this reckless administration. We need a bipartisan solution to address this impending health care crisis, but we should not be swapping the pain of one group of Americans for another." My source tonight is the independent Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, who also caucuses with the Democrats. And Senator, what do you make of your colleague's argument?
Well, she is entitled to have her opinion. My own view, Caitlin, is we are living in an unprecedented moment in American history. We're looking at more income and wealth inequality than we've ever had. We're looking at a situation where we have a major housing crisis, major educational crisis. People in Vermont are going to the grocery store. They can't afford their food. And we have a healthcare system that is broken. And for the first time in the modern history of this country, where in the Senate you need 60 votes. That means bipartisanship. What the Republicans have said, sorry, we're not going to deal with the opposition. We're going to do it alone. Here it is. You take it or you leave it. I will not take it, and I'll tell you why I will not take it. Just today, there was a report that came out from the Kaiser Family Foundation. This is what they said. 24 million Americans will see more than a doubling in their health care premiums. You know what that means? People in Vermont and around the country cannot afford health care right now.
So they just won't have health care.
They won't have health care. And on top of that, what the Republicans did in Trump's big, beautiful bill is to throw 15 million Americans off of the health insurance they have. Another study came out, University of Pennsylvania, Yale. You know what that is? They say that 50,000 Americans a year will die unnecessarily because they can't get to a doctor. So instead of improving a broken healthcare system, these guys are making it far, far worse. So I cannot sit back and allow a situation where tens of thousands of people in this country will actually die in order for Trump and the Republicans to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1%. That is insane. It's unacceptable. We cannot allow that to happen.
What's your response to Republicans like House Speaker Mike Johnson and others who say the subsidies don't expire until the end of December? We have time to negotiate on those and we could find some common ground.
Well, for a start, common ground, really. They have had months. And for the first time in modern history, they have not sat down. What has always happened is a majority, he talks about how 13 occasions they worked with the Democrats. It's true, because the Democrats in that case sat down with them. So what you need is a bipartisan solution. What these guys have said, it's my way or the highway. This is the way it's going to be. And that is kind of what Trumpism is about. That's that authoritarian tendency that we're seeing in America right now.
So are you telling me you're willing to vote no every time Leader Thin
Damn right.
brings this
I
up?
am not going to allow. Let me be clear. All right? You can quote me on this. You can quote me on, as we say in Vermont, till the cows come home. I will not let tens of thousands of fellow Americans die because they're thrown off of health care. In my state, people cannot afford a doubling in the health care premiums. We are already paying the highest prices in the country for health care. People just can't afford it. And what the Republicans have got to do is go into their hearts and go back into their constituents. Ask their constituents in Louisiana, where Johnson is from, do you think it's a good idea to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to people like Bezos and Musk and Zuckerberg, the richest people in this country, in order to throw people off the health care they have? I think the answer will be a resounding no. So I hope the Republicans develop a sense of morality, listen to the people of America, and do the right thing.
Back in 2018, when there was a shutdown looming over Dreamers, people who qualified under DACA, and the funding for President Trump's border wall, you had talked about a government shutdown is a serious action, a dangerous action, and you said basically you should do everything you can to prevent it.
That's right.
So is your argument tonight that fighting for extending these subsidies is worth shutting the government down?
What I'm saying, what I said then, is what I believe. No sane person wants to see a government shutdown. People are going to be hurt, and that bothers me very, very much. But if we allow the Republicans to simply not negotiate and to throw 15 million people off of health care and to double premiums for 20 million people, that will cause even more harm. And by the way, on top of all of that, you have a president who today said to the military, wouldn't it be a good idea if we could start practicing military exercises by invading cities in America, who is threatening the media. So you have a movement toward authoritarianism that we have to address as well. This, Caitlin, is a very difficult moment in the modern history of this country. I think probably as dangerous as any time since the Civil War period. And I think what the American people are saying, this is not business as usual. We've got to stand up, we've got to fight back, and create a government that works for all of us, not just Elon Musk and the billionaires.
One thing I've heard from the White House is that the budget director, Russ Vought over there, is basically ready to go if the government is shut down, canceling programs they don't like, laying off federal workers. Are you worried about that?
Of course I'm worried about it, but that's what they've been doing already. You remember when Musk was running Doge, we're going to throw out 83,000 employees who work for the Veterans Administration. And it's a very nice way to treat the men and women who are veterans of this country, who put their lives on the line to defend us. Cutting Social Security positions. They're doing it already. Give you one more example. You may have seen this, I'm sure you did. I think it was yesterday. Trump says, well, if Mr. Mamdani becomes the mayor of New York City, well, you know what? I'm going to cut funding to New York City. Well, that's great. You cut funding to any city, any state that you don't like. Well, not only is that illegal, not only is that unconstitutional, it's outrageous. Every state in this country contributes money into the federal budget. You can't pick and choose who you want to fund. So you have a president who happens not to believe in the rule of law. And our job is to rally the American people, who I think are very strongly on our side, and tell Trump and the Republicans, you know what, this government belongs to all of us, not just your billionaire oligarch friends.
And you're not worried you're handing him more power by having the government shut down?
I just told you. He's now telling us, with or without a shutdown, he may not fund New York City, may not fund Vermont. He doesn't like me, not fund Vermont.
You caucus with the Democrats. John Fetterman, a Democratic senator from Pennsylvania, said if Democrats want to get what they want, they need to win elections to change policy. Do you agree with that?
Well, of course, winning elections is vital. And I, among others, we're working very hard in these 2026 elections. And by the way, to be honest with you, I worry about whether or not the Republicans will accept defeat. If Democrats win a majority in the House, we will see whether they will accept defeat. And the things.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, I'll tell you what I mean.
I've never heard you say that before.
I never did. But this is what I worry about when we move toward authoritarianism. All right, you're going to read, Republicans have, what, a 3/4 vote majority in the House? So you have a couple of, Democrats win a few seats. And then you have a couple of seats which are pretty close. Do you think the Republicans necessarily will go along with a recount and say, well, she won the election, that's it? Or maybe they'll say, no, we're going to take it to court. We think there are illegal, undocumented people who voted. So bottom line here is, I worry about the growth of authoritarianism in this country. And I think you have a president who doesn't respect or even understand the Constitution.
Senator Bernie Sanders on that ominous warning. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see what happens here. Obviously, we know how Senator Sanders is going to vote. And speaking of what he referenced there, that address that the president gave, an unusual one to many and hundreds of U.S. military leaders today. The statement was no more beards, the highest male standards, using dangerous U.S. cities as training grounds for the military. Those are just some of the lines we heard from the president and also the Secretary of Defense today.